You open the fridge and there it is, the chicken, sitting on the middle shelf in its plastic tray, pale and quiet and innocent looking. Kiwis eat more chicken than any other meat, over 40 kilograms per person every single year, more than beef and lamb combined. It is the safe choice, the easy choice, the one the kids will actually eat without a fight. But here is what keeps this old grandpa up at night. New Zealand has one of the highest rates of Campylobacter food poisoning in the entire developed world, and the number one source is that innocent-looking tray of chicken in your fridge. There are birds bred to grow so fast their legs give out, carcasses plumped up with water you pay chicken prices for, and brands owned by people you have never heard of in places you would never guess. Nobody tells you this, so I will. Go ahead and subscribe. I'll tell you everything. Number 7. Pam's Fresh Chicken. Let us start with the budget option, because that is where most trolleys start. Pam's is the house brand from Foodstuffs, the cooperative behind New World and Pack and Save, and their fresh chicken is priced to move. A whole bird for around $10 to $12. Skinless breast fillets at prices that undercut the branded stuff by a couple of dollars a kilo, and when the weekly shop is squeezing you from every direction, that price difference matters. I understand that, but let me tell you what you are actually buying when you buy the cheapest chicken on the shelf. Foodstuffs does not farm a single chicken. They are a supermarket cooperative, not a poultry company. Every tray of Pam's chicken comes from one of the big industrial processors, packed into Pam's plastic and sold with a Pam's label, and the label tells you almost nothing about which farm the bird came from, how it was raised, or how it was processed. What we do know is how budget chicken gets to be budget chicken. It comes from conventional indoor sheds, where tens of thousands of birds live on the floor of a single barn, packed in at densities that can reach the equivalent of roughly 19 birds per square meter by the time they reach slaughter weight. These are fast-growing meat breeds, engineered over decades to go from a fluffy yellow chick to a full slaughter weight bird in around 35 to 42 days. 5 to 6 weeks, mate. That is the entire life. And the speaker and animal welfare organizations here and overseas have documented what that growth rate does to the birds. Legs that cannot carry the weight, hearts and lungs that cannot keep up with a body ballooning at that speed, birds that spend their final days sitting down because standing hurts. Then there is the processing. Most conventional chicken in New Zealand is water chilled, which means after slaughter the carcasses are dunked into large baths of chilled, chlorinated water to bring the temperature down. Two things happen in that bath. First, the carcass absorbs water, and that retained water, which can be several % of the total weight, is sold to you at chicken prices. You are paying $10 a kilo for a portion of water. Second, thousands of carcasses share that same water. The industry treats the water to control bacteria, but a communal bath is a communal bath, and Campylobacter is precisely the kind of passenger that likes to travel between carcasses. Surveys of retail chicken in New Zealand, including work overseen by the Ministry for Primary Industries and testing highlighted by Consumer NZ, have repeatedly found Campylobacter on a substantial proportion of fresh chicken at the point of sale. That is not a rogue batch. That is the system working as designed, and the budget end of the market is the last place anyone spends extra money fixing it. Number 6. Woolworths' own brand chicken. Cross the road to the other half of the supermarket duopoly, and you find the same story wearing a different apron. Woolworths New Zealand, the company that used to be Countdown, sells its own brand fresh chicken at prices designed to go head-to-head with Pam's. And everything I just told you about anonymous supply chains applies here too. But with Woolworths there is an extra layer worth chewing on, and that is the duopoly itself. New Zealand has one of the most concentrated grocery markets in the developed world. Two companies, Woolworths and Foodstuffs, control an estimated 86% of everything Kiwis buy at the supermarket. The Commerce Commission ran a full market study in 2022 and concluded that competition is not working well for consumers. Now think about what that means for the chicken aisle specifically. When two buyers control nearly the whole retail market, the processors who supply them have almost no bargaining power. The supermarket names its price, and the processor has to hit it, and the only way to hit it is to shave costs somewhere. Faster growing birds, higher stocking densities, cheaper feed, quicker processing lines. Every dollar the supermarket squeezes out of the supplier gets squeezed, ultimately, out of the bird, and out of the quality of what lands in your trolley. And have a look at the label next time you pick up one of those value packs. Look for the words that are not there. You will not find the name of a farm. You will not find the breed of the bird. You will often find, in small print on marinated and processed lines, added water, salt, and a modest percentage of things that are not chicken at all. Woolworths sells plain fresh chicken, but it also sells an entire universe of own brand marinated drumsticks, seasoned nibbles, and crumbed tenders, and those products carry sodium levels that would make your GP raise an eyebrow. The Heart Foundation recommends adults stay under 1,600 milligrams of sodium a day. The average Kiwi is already at more than double that. A serving of heavily brined, seasoned supermarket chicken can quietly chew through a quarter of your daily budget before you have even added sauce. Chicken has a health halo in this country. It is the meat people buy when they are trying to be good. And the processed end of the own brand chicken range cashes that halo in and hands you back salt water. Number 5. Brink's Chicken. Brink's is one of those brands that has been around for yonks, and plenty of Kiwi families have grown up with it in the freezer. It is positioned as the friendly, familiar, no-nonsense chicken brand, and the packaging leans into that warm family feeling. But familiarity is not the same thing as transparency, and when you go looking for hard information about how Brink's chicken is actually raised, you run into the same wall you hit everywhere in this industry. The standard Brink's product is conventional barn-raised chicken. That means indoor sheds, no outdoor access, and the same fast-growing meat breeds used across the industry. The birds never see the sun. They live on litter on the shed floor for their 5 to 6 weeks, under artificial lighting schedules designed to keep them eating, and then they are caught, crated, and processed. There is no independent welfare certification splashed across the standard range, no speaker certification logo, no organic accreditation. And in an industry where the marketing typically works overtime to make sheds sound like meadows, the absence of any independent tick should tell you something. Here is the wider point, and it applies to every conventional brand on this list. In New Zealand, the meat chicken industry likes to point out two genuinely true things. First, no chicken in this country is given hormones. That has been illegal for decades, and any brand advertising hormone-free chicken is telling you something that is true of every single chicken in every single supermarket, which makes it marketing rather than information. Second, New Zealand does not import raw chicken meat, so it is all locally raised. Also true. But what the industry talks about far less is antibiotics. Conventional poultry production here has routinely used in-feed antibiotics, including zinc bacitracin, to keep gut disease under control in crowded sheds. And in 2015, researchers found a strain of antibiotic-resistant Campylobacter spreading through New Zealand poultry, a strain resistant to fluoroquinolones, one of the important antibiotic classes in human medicine. Scientists at the time described it publicly as dangerous. When bacteria that make thousands of Kiwis sick every year start shrugging off the medicines we use to treat the worst cases, that is not a poultry industry problem. That is your problem, and mine, and every grandkid's. And Brink's, sitting in the middle of the market without the certifications of the premium brands or the rock-bottom price of the house brands, ends up being the worst of both worlds for the careful shopper. You pay more than you would for Pam's, and you get the same shed, the same breed, the same water chill, and the same silence when you ask the hard questions. If you are going to buy conventional chicken, at least the budget brands are honest about what they are. The mid-market brands sell you conventional chicken wearing a nicer jumper, and the difference in price buys you the jumper, not a better bird. Number 4. Waitoa Free Range. Now this one hurts a little, because Waitoa is the brand a lot of well-meaning people trade up to. The packaging is lovely. Green fields, open air, the words free range doing a lot of heavy lifting. You pay a solid premium over conventional chicken, and you walk out of the supermarket feeling like you did the right thing. So let us look at what is behind the label. Waitoa is not a plucky independent farm. Waitoa is a brand owned by Ingham's, the biggest poultry company in Australasia. The same industrial machine that produces mountains of conventional chicken also owns the free-range brand you buy to avoid industrial chicken. That is not illegal, and it is not even unusual, but it is worth knowing, because the free-range premium in your head is going to the same corporate bottom line as the cage-adjacent stuff you thought you were boycotting. We saw exactly this pattern in the egg aisle, with Zeggold owning both the budget colony brands and the premium free-range brands, and the chicken aisle plays the same game. The shelf looks like competition. The ownership structure looks like consolidation. And here is the harder truth about free-range meat chicken in this country. Free-range tells you the birds had access to the outdoors. It does not tell you what kind of bird walked out that door. The overwhelming majority of free-range meat chickens in New Zealand are the same fast-growing breeds as the birds in the sheds. Same genetics, same ballooning growth curve, same leg problems, just with a pop hole in the wall. In 2019, the animal rights organization SAFE released footage filmed on a New Zealand free-range broiler farm, and what it showed was deformed and dying chickens, birds unable to stand, birds dying of the same growth-related problems as their indoor cousins. The story ran on stuff, and it should have been a national conversation, because it put a crack right through the comforting idea that the words free range solve the welfare problem. They do not. The breed is the problem, and the breed goes wherever the brand goes. When you pay the Waitoa premium, you are paying for outdoor access, and outdoor access is genuinely better than none. But you are not paying for a different chicken, you are paying for a different story about the same chicken. And have a think about the pricing while you are at it. Waitoa products routinely sell at a premium of 40 to 50% over conventional chicken, sometimes more on the portions. Some of that premium reflects real costs, because lower stocking densities and range areas do cost money to run. But some of it is pure positioning, because the free-range shopper has already decided to spend more, and the marketing department knows it. When the same parent company sets the price of both the cheap chicken and the ethical chicken, the gap between them is not an accident of farming economics. It is a carefully engineered ladder, and every rung is calibrated to what your conscience will bear. That is not farming, mate. That is psychology with a barcode. Subscribe to show that these videos do help and do make sense. Number 3. Ingham's. Let us talk about the parent company itself, because Ingham's Chicken is on every supermarket shelf in this country under its own name too. Ingham's is the largest poultry producer across Australia and New Zealand, processing hundreds of millions of birds a year across the two countries. It started as an Australian family business back in 1918, but the family sold out in 2013 to TPG, a giant American private equity firm, which did what private equity firms do. Costs were squeezed, assets were sold and leased back, and in 2016 the company was floated on the Australian Stock Exchange. So when you buy a tray of Ingham's chicken at your local supermarket, you are buying from a publicly listed corporation whose legal duty is to maximize returns to shareholders, most of whom live across the Tasman or further away, and none of whom will ever eat the specific chicken in your trolley. Scale is the whole story with Ingham's. The sheds are enormous. The processing plants run at extraordinary line speeds. The birds are the standard fast-growing breeds, raised indoors at commercial densities, slaughtered at 5 to 6 weeks. And when you run a system that big, that fast, on margins that thin, hygiene becomes a statistics game. The Public Health Communication Centre here in New Zealand has described our Campylobacter situation as a prolonged epidemic driven by contaminated chicken meat, with tens of thousands of Kiwis estimated to get sick every year once you account for all the cases that never get officially reported. Around half or more of those cases trace back to poultry. Every year, year after year, public health researchers have called for a strong industry and regulatory response, tighter contamination limits at retail, and real accountability for the processors. And year after year, the industry position is that the levels are within the standards, and the standards are set in consultation with the industry. You have heard that song before on this channel. It was playing in the egg aisle, and it was playing in the tinned tomato aisle, and it is playing here too. Number 2. Tegel takeouts and the processed Tegel range. Before we get to the big red rooster itself, we need to talk about what the big companies do to chicken after it is chicken. Tegel takeouts is the processed arm of the Tegel empire. Crumbed tenders, hot wings, popcorn chicken, burger patties, all the golden crunchy stuff that goes from freezer to oven to teenager in 20 minutes. And this is where a healthy protein quietly turns into ultra-processed food. Flip one of those bags over and read the ingredient panel, and remember everything on it is perfectly legal. You will find chicken, yes, and then you will find the parade. Wheat flour and starches to bulk out the coating, vegetable oils for the par fry, salt, and plenty of it, with some products delivering several hundred milligrams of sodium per serving before it touches your plate. Sugar in the marinades. Flavor enhancers, which is the polite name for additives in the 600 family like monosodium glutamate and its cousins. Raising agents, emulsifiers, and stabilizers, with numbers instead of names. None of these ingredients will poison you at dinner. That is not the claim, and it has never been the claim on this channel. The claim is about what happens over years. Because ultra-processed food is not an occasional treat in this country anymore, it is the baseline diet, and large studies overseas have associated high ultra-processed food consumption with higher rates of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cardiovascular disease. When the healthy meat gets breaded, brined, enhanced, and bagged, It stops being the healthy meat. It becomes a delivery vehicle for refined starch, seed oil and salt, with some chicken in the middle. And the brand sells it to you under the same trusted rooster logo that your mum trusted, which is exactly why it works. Number 1. Tegel, the rooster, the national institution. Tegel has been feeding New Zealand since 1961, and for most Kiwis the brand is practically wallpaper. It has simply always been there. Tegel is the biggest poultry producer in New Zealand, processing on the order of 50 million birds a year. And because it is the biggest, it earns the top spot on this list, because everything wrong with industrial chicken in this country runs through Tegel at scale. Start with ownership, because most people have no idea. Tegel is not Kiwi owned. It has been passed around global capital for 20 years like a rugby ball. Private equity firms bought and sold it more than once. It was floated on the stock exchange, and then in 2018 it was bought outright for around $437 million by Bounty Fresh Foods, a poultry giant based in the Philippines. The rooster on the packet is as Kiwi as Jandals, but the profits fly to Manila. Just like Watties and the Stars and Stripes, the branding wraps itself in New Zealand, while the money goes somewhere else entirely. Now the birds. Tegel raises fast-growing meat breeds in large indoor sheds, tens of thousands of birds to a shed, grown to slaughter weight in around 5 to 6 weeks. And in late 2019, New Zealand got a rare, uninvited look inside that system when nearly 200,000 Tegel chickens died on farms in a matter of days during hot weather, with ventilation failures reported as a factor. 200,000 birds, mate. Dead not from disease, but from the sheer fragility of a system that stacks that many fast-growing bodies into sheds where the margin between comfortable and catastrophic is a power supply and a fan. RNZ and Stuff covered it. The company faced questions about transparency, and the Ministry for Primary Industries looked into it. And then the news cycle moved on, and the sheds filled up again, because that is what the system does. And hanging over all of it is the Campylobacter epidemic we have already talked about, because Tegel, as the biggest processor, is the biggest single contributor of chicken to the New Zealand market, and retail surveys keep finding contaminated product across the industry. The advice from the authorities is that the consumer must handle raw chicken like hazardous material. Do not wash it, because washing splashes the bacteria around your kitchen. Use a separate board. Cook it through to the bone. All good advice. But stop and think about what it means, mate. The product is sold to you in a state where the official guidance treats your own kitchen bench as a biohazard zone. That is how normal contamination has become. We do not demand cleaner chicken. We train the public to work around dirty chicken. And the biggest brand in the country benefits from that arrangement every single day. Tegel, number 1. So those are the 7. And unlike the tinned tomatoes, where I had to look you in the eye and tell you there was nothing on the shelf I could honestly recommend, the chicken aisle has some genuinely good news. There are 4 brands in this country doing it properly, and this old grandpa is going to tell you exactly why they earn your money. The first one to buy, Bostock Brothers. If you only remember one name from this entire video, make it this one. Bostock Brothers, run by 2 actual brothers, Ben and George Bostock, out in Hawke's Bay, is New Zealand's only certified organic chicken producer. And I want you to notice the word certified, because it is doing real work. This is not a marketing claim dreamed up in an office. It is independent, third-party organic certification, audited, inspected, verifiable. The chickens are raised free-range on the family's organic apple orchards, and they eat certified organic feed, with the brothers growing much of it themselves on their own land, so the supply chain is not an anonymous web of contractors. It is a family you can name, on land you can visit, feeding birds they own from paddock to plate. No antibiotics, not reduced antibiotics, not responsible antibiotics, none. Ever, as a standing rule of the entire operation. Remember that resistant Campylobacter strain we talked about? The single best way to stop breeding resistant bacteria in poultry is to stop marinating poultry farms in antibiotics, and that is exactly what organic certification requires. The birds are slower growing breeds given roughly twice the lifespan of a conventional broiler, which means legs that work, hearts that keep up, and birds that can actually behave like birds out on the grass under the apple trees. And here is my favorite part, the processing. Bostock Brothers air chill their chicken. No communal chlorinated water bath. The carcasses are chilled with cold air, one by one, which means no absorbed water padding out the weight you pay for, and no shared bath water shuttling bacteria between thousands of carcasses. Air chilling costs the producer more, and takes longer, and almost nobody in this country does it. which tells you exactly why it matters. They even package the chicken in home compostable packaging. Is it expensive? Yes, mate, it is. Roughly double the price of the budget stuff, sometimes more. But you are paying for chicken, all chicken, raised slowly, with nothing added and nothing to apologize for. If the budget allows it even once a fortnight, this is the one. The second one to buy. Rangitike Free Range. Rangitike is the free-range brand you can actually find without hunting, because it is stocked in the big supermarkets right alongside the conventional stuff. The birds are raised free-range on farms in the lower North Island, with genuine outdoor access during the day once they are feathered enough to handle the weather, and space to roam, scratch and stretch that a conventional shed simply does not offer. The brand is independently audited under free-range accreditation, so the claim on the front of the pack is checked by someone other than the company making it. What I like about Rangitike is that it makes the better choice convenient. Not everyone can get to a farmer's market or order a whole organic bird online. Most of the country shops in 2 supermarket chains, full stop, and Rangitike sits on those shelves at a premium that is real but not brutal, typically a few dollars more per kilo than conventional. For that money you get birds that lived meaningfully better lives, with lower stocking densities and outdoor range, and you get a company that actually talks about its farming instead of hiding behind a logo. It is not organic, and the breeds are not the slow-growing heritage types, so I will not pretend it is Bostock Brothers. But the perfect should never be the enemy of the better, and if every Kiwi family that currently buys budget shed chicken switched to this, the industry would transform within a decade, because supermarkets follow trolleys. There is also something to be said for the corn-fed range Rangitike has built its name on. The corn in the feed gives the meat a slightly golden color and a richer flavor, and unlike the golden yolk trickery we talked about in the egg video, the brand is upfront that the color comes from the feed. That is the difference between marketing and deception, and it is not a subtle one. Tell me what you are doing and why, and let me decide. Rangitike does that better than most, and in this industry, that alone puts a brand in the top handful. The third one to buy. Bird and Barrow. Bird and Barrow is a smaller free-range operation that has been quietly building a loyal following, and it deserves a louder one. The whole brand is built on ethical free-range production, with birds raised on pasture-access farms and a company philosophy that puts welfare front and center rather than as a premium line bolted onto an industrial base. That last part matters more than people realize. When a giant corporation sells both cheap shed chicken and premium free-range chicken, the free-range line is a market segment. When a small company sells only free-range, the free-range is the company. There is no conventional business quietly subsidized by your premium, and no incentive to blur the lines between the ranges, because there is only one range, and it has to be honest to survive. The birds get daylight, outdoor access, and room to move, and the company is open about its farms and practices in a way the big players simply are not. You will pay a premium, and depending on where you live, you may need to look for it at selected supermarkets, butchers, and online. But supporting the small, honest operator is not just a feel-good gesture, it is how you keep the big players honest too, because every dollar that flows to a transparent producer is a signal the industry giants can read on a spreadsheet. The fourth one to buy. Turks Free Range. Turks is the old-school family answer to the corporate rooster. This is a family poultry business out of Foxton that has been at it for generations, and crucially, Turks controls its own operation from raising through to processing, rather than being a label slapped on someone else's anonymous supply chain. When one family name is on the building, the trucks, and the packet, accountability stops being a corporate communications exercise and becomes personal. Their free-range line gives the birds outdoor access and more room than conventional production, and because the company runs its own processing, the chain from farm to chiller is short, local, and traceable. And unlike the rooster and the multinationals, the money stays here. Every dollar you hand over for a Turk's bird circulates through Foxton and the Horowenua, pays local wages, and keeps a genuine Kiwi family business alive in an industry that global capital has been swallowing piece by piece for 20 years. We watched Tegel go to Manila. We watched Ingham's go to private equity and then the stock exchange. We watched Watties go to Chicago and the egg brands go to Kuala Lumpur. At some point, keeping the last family names alive on the packet stops being sentimental and starts being strategic, because once they are gone, the entire food supply of this country answers to boardrooms that could not find Foxton on a map. That is the quality all 4 of these good brands share when you stand back and look. It is not one magic word like organic or free range. It is traceability. With Bostock Brothers, Rangitikē, Bird and Barrow, and Turks, you can draw a line from the chicken in your trolley back to actual farms run by actual people who will put their name to their practices. With the 7 brands at the top of this video, that line disappears into contracts, corporate structures, and holding companies headquartered in other countries. Traceability is not a luxury feature, mate. It is the entire difference between food and product. So here is where this old grandpa lands. Chicken is not the villain. Chicken raised properly is some of the best value protein a family can buy, and this country grows every bird it eats, which is more than most nations can say. But the cheap end of the chicken aisle is cheap for reasons, and the reasons are 5-week lifespans, crowded sheds, communal water baths, an antibiotic habit we are all going to pay for eventually, and a food poisoning epidemic so normalized that the official solution is to teach you to treat your dinner like a lab specimen. You do not have to fund that with your grocery money. Buy less chicken if the budget is tight, but buy better chicken. One properly raised bird roasted on Sunday, with the bones boiled into soup on Monday, feeds a family further than 3 trays of watery budget fillets, and it feeds them with something you can actually trust. And a few practical things before you go, because knowledge you cannot use is just worry with extra steps. Whatever chicken you buy, never wash it under the tap, because the splash spreads Campylobacter up to ½ a meter around your sink, over your bench, your dishcloth, and anything else in range, straight from the packet to the pan. Use a separate chopping board for raw chicken, and wash your hands with soap before you touch anything else. Cook it right through until the juices run clear, and nothing is pink at the bone. 75 degrees in the thickest part if you own a meat thermometer, and if you do not own one, they cost less than a single takeaway meal, and they will serve your kitchen for 20 years. Freeze what you will not use within a couple of days. These are not tips for the bad brands, they are the rules for all raw chicken, because even the best bird in the country is still raw poultry until it is cooked. Read the labels. Look for the certifications, not the adjectives. Ask your butcher where the bird came from, and if they cannot tell you, that is your answer. The supermarkets will not have this conversation with you, and the corporations certainly will not, so it falls to a grumpy old grandpa on the internet, and I do not take that responsibility lightly. I am a grandpa, and grandpas worry. Look after yourself.